What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 64 of Value Town. I'm ChanManV, and joined today, of course, by Noxious and Reynad's back from the break from last week. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing great.
As usual.
Usual? What's the usual? babies, and all that good stuff, right? That's kind of your
For
usual
me, yeah.
days,
For
right?
me, of course.
Of course.
I mean, that's pretty much all I do, basically, is try to sleep when I can.
Yeah.
But half the time I can't. Like, I think I've gotten 5 hours of sleep in the past 3 days, but it's cool. I'll
Yeah,
live.
that's 5 hours pretty good, actually, so not bad.
In the past 3 days, I'm not sure about that, man.
Yeah.
Don't know about that.
Reynad, how about you, man? What have you been up to?
It's just the same old stuff, pretty much. Streaming a bit here and there. I got a lot busier once we got the CS:GO team. It's like real esports, and then that
Real?
yeah, that has a lot of stuff associated with it as far as like the behind the scenes stuff. So kind of like doubled the amount of work. But yeah.
Definitely good stuff, though, right? It's nice to have a good team too.
Right now, is gonna need an underling to work on that eventually, right? Are you hiring for
I
that
have a
kind of
lot
stuff
of them.
ever? Or okay, you already have a bunch. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's some things you can't like leave to other people though.
Yeah.
Got to do it yourself. Yeah, definitely hear you. Well, guys, we got obviously a list of topics here under you, as you can see down below. Just our week in Hearthstone, like we always do. Deck talk. There's been a very popular deck that a lot of people have been playing, especially the last few days of the season 2. The Camel deck, just I guess the spoiler there. Tournament mode. We saw Yang Wu in an interview recently, just, mentioning that they're taking feedback from it, so maybe they're even thinking about it. So I figured we would talk about it a little bit, what we'd like to see in tournament mode. Tiny bit of drama, maybe we'll just touch on it real quick. I know Reynad's talked a lot about it on stream, but maybe just touch a little bit on it, and then a viewer Q&A where you can tweet your questions to ValueTownGG. And we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. All right, so our week in Hearthstone, end of the season, obviously happened a couple days ago. Was trying a bunch of different. Actually, I was trying to grind the legend the last couple of days. I decided last minute to try to. But how was the last week for you guys? Just playing Hearthstone.
That's fine. Honestly, like I still just play gimmick decks or half serious decks. So half the time it's just, oh, I got tempoed out. I don't want to play X or Y cards because otherwise I end up putting like 12 auto includes and I get bored.
Yeah.
With the way it plays out. So you end up having very few alternatives, and when you run into like a good tempo, then you're just out. So
yeah, okay.
It makes everything really tough as far as experimentation goes.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Ray, how about you? I saw you playing Camel the other day, and we were going to talk about Camel, but any other cool things you were doing on stream?
Well, not really. It was actually pretty hard to get legend this month. When I say hard, I mean it took like an extra, like maybe day or two worth of hours, like 5 to 10 hours compared to normal.
Right. Nice.
So I think it's just gradually getting harder because people are like net decking more. Like you never see people with bad deck lists anymore.
Yeah.
Also, like there was just so much paladin at the end of the month. Like normally the end of the month is easier for climbing, but now it's like that's when everyone plays like the net deck high tier stuff. So
yeah.
It was interesting. I literally went on the snapshot like the 27th or 28th, and I just copied the Druid deck at number 1, and I just like won a bunch of games in a row, and I got there. But it's definitely stuck at rank 1 for a couple days. It was interesting. When I say a couple days, I mean like only playing like 3-4 hours a day.
Yeah. No, I know. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I basically just started trying like about 4 days until the end, and yeah, there's definitely a ton of power. I was playing Chinese Zoo and some of my own kind of control priest, my own version of control priest, which is kind of similar to Kalenta, but a little bit different. It has Elise in it and that sort of thing. And the last day was really weird. So the last day I was like basically 4-star, 5-star rank 1 like the entire time, and had some epic losses at Gatekeeper. It was pretty terrible, but I ended up, there was a time where I was just like, it was only Paladin and only Zoo I was playing. And then all of a sudden, like the last 2 hours of the last day, or 3 hours of the last day, it was like only control stuff. It was like all priests, and I mean, in Druid, it's actually not that much Druid at the end. It was like Paladin, Zoo, and Druid leading up to the last few hours. Then all of a sudden, it was just like Priest and
Well,
Warrior
for
and
all
crap
you
like that.
know,
It was
like
like, what the
everybody else
hell?
was like everybody else might have been running into Paladin. Like you
I
just
know, it's
didn't,
just
and that's kind of a
weird.
fundamental problem you have with the ladder system. Is it's
Yeah.
pretty tough to roll the dice properly. Like a lot of it sometimes comes down to good matchups. Like I'll find usually that when you get people to hit legend, what ends up happening is they get like a crazy win streak, right? Like at the end they push like 8 to 9 wins in a row. It
Yeah.
happens really often. Like rarely do you see people grind forever on it. Like it'll very often just happen
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
quickly, and that's just the nature of rolling your good matchups.
Yeah.
And most of the time, if the ladder ever gets reduced to like only 2 decks, like it did in the last couple of days of the season, then you can counter it with like one specific deck that's good against both of them, and then climb really fast. But this is like one of the first times where the top 2 decks were so good, even in their bad matchups, that it was like really hard to counter them. You know, like if
Yeah.
you play Freeze Mage to beat Seeker Paladin, you lose to Druid, and if you play, I don't know, Zoo to beat Druid, then you lose to Seeker Paladin. There's just like no way to.
Yeah, to get like 70,
everything.
80%, you just pretty much had to 60% it and grind up there or something like
These
that.
are decks that are hard to punish. I think that's kind of what it
Yeah.
comes down to. It's like it's really hard to punish these decks baseline. You mentioned it was harder this month to climb the legend, and I think that's also due to that. It's just the decks are somewhat forgiving. Not every single deck is that, like, let's say Zoo is harder to play than obviously Druid in some cases, in most cases really. But it's like I venture to say that because of the fact that all these decks that are very forgiving are now solid, that's what makes the ladder harder. Like people might have gotten better, but for the most part, it's just the deck lists. I think so.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean by that. But that Chinese Zoo deck is really fun though.
Yeah, it is.
You guys played a lot with this and Hanso and everything. Oh my gosh, I had so many wins with Wind Fury Power Overwhelming. It's ridiculous.
What's the Chinese Zoo deck?
Oh god, who
Enhanced
I forget-
Mechano. That's all you.
well,
That's all you
it's-
need to know.
So it has no Doom Guards, no Void Callers. It's has an enhanced mechanic. There's the 1C Giant, I believe. What else? The Wolves are in it. I'm trying to think of any unique
Sea
aspects
Giants,
of
do
it.
they run that stuff? Because I remember like
Yeah,
there was a
it's a
list
Sea
that ran
Giant in
Sea
it.
Giants just
Yes.
to
I have
get that
one
extra
Sea Giant. I think
Hanzo.
maybe some have two, but I'm pretty sure it's one. And then you can run a Lothab or not. You can run a Reliquary or not. I was just kind of playing around with some of those cards, but yeah, it's just one with no Doom Guard. It relies heavily, honestly, against control decks. It relies heavily on Enhanso getting Wind Fury. Like I couldn't ever beat Warrior without Wind Fury. It was pretty interesting, but it's really fun. It's actually I think I went from like 5 to almost rank 1 with that.
I mean, it makes
like,
Zoo
it was
fun,
just
right?
crushing.
But between
yeah.
Peddler and Mechano, you've got an Implosion.
Oh, Leroy too.
And
That's
Knife
Leroy,
Juggler.
yeah.
Like you can do all these funny things. Just roll the dice more often. It's like you're playing Random Mage, but with Zoo.
Yeah.
It feels like.
It has a Leroy too, so
Yeah.
that's fun.
That's
Definitely
good.
fun. Let's see what else this week. You guys play Tavern Brawl at all? Like, I know the last Tavern Brawl we talked about was the charge taunt one, right?
Yeah.
I barely played that one, but the new one sounds pretty interesting. Noxious, you were explaining it to me.
Yeah, like the last one we had was basically the hero has taunt, which was like there was a hero has taunt and then charge and taunt on all the minions. And this time around, it's like each player gets to pick a buff. Like we've already seen that before, where some people got to maybe get 3 armor when they played a spell, and like it was super dominated by very, spell heavy decks. But this time around, what they've got is like the same type of effect, but it feels like they've expanded on it. And what's really cool is, I feel like after the taunt, your hero has taunt, and this one, they're really trying out the whole enchantment part of development, where you get to pick an effect that will last throughout the game without necessarily, or at least for a portion of the game, without necessarily going away as soon as you played it, like minions or spells. So I
Yeah.
think that's nice. It shows some experimentation on their part.
Yeah, I mean, anytime they've tried those type of ideas, where you have this kind of enchantments or these choices, right? You can
Yeah.
choose whatever you want. It's been really successful. Like the one a few weeks back, right? Where you could choose if you wanted Battle Cry or
Oh, God.
Death Rattle and that sort of thing. That was kind of
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, well, this new season's coming on or just starting, and I don't know. I played a little bit yesterday, and all I saw was aggro. That's like typical beginning of the season. So,
Dude, I faced off against 3 Reno secret paladins. Like,
Okay,
don't
that's
even.
not-
I
that's
have
awesome.
no idea what's going on, so I'm not even gonna comment on this. I
Okay.
have no clue.
All right. Well, moving on. Actually, something that before we get into the deck talk, something did come up on Reddit recently. I figured I'd bring it up, and it's basically speculation on when the new release, right, with the whole standard and new expansions coming out, and the speculations were made based on Blizzard's announcement of the championship schedule, the world champion, just America, Europe, and Asia championship schedules for winter and summer and spring. And the way they worded it was that this current season, the ending to this championship, was kind of worded normally. The players can pick whatever cards from the decks, but then the other 2 seasons, and it stated specifically stuff about standard. So people are speculating that it's not going to be released until after this competitive season's over. What do you guys think? I just guessing. Of course, we don't know for sure, but guessing. What do you guys think? You think they will come out with it pre-championship, pre-finals, and have what we've had in the past, where Blizzard comes out with an expansion, regardless of what's happening in the championship, and then players have to adapt to it, or do you think they'll actually wait this time around? Reynad?
I mean, I think they'll wait until, like, how do I put it? The actual championship itself happens on like the 11th or something, like the most, like,
It
the
begins on
nearest
it, yeah. The
championship.
Americas one, right?
Yeah, the Americas one is 9, I think. No, March 11th through
11th.
13th. Yeah, 11th through
When's
13th.
when's the European one?
I think a
week
week
later.
after that. It's basically a week after that, and Asia's a week after that. So that's kind of why they gave the March 27th date, as where people are speculating after it.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if that's like an event where it's worth announcing new cards, but maybe they wouldn't do it like at a competitive event, and they would just do a separate announcement outside of that. I mean, yeah, as far as like it being after March 28th, that's like the least. That's like me saying after December it'll be 2017. Like yeah. I mean,
Thanks for that.
like yes, they're not going to release an expansion like 2 months after the last one, and they're also not going to release it like 6 months after the last one. So
Yeah.
it's like very in line with their once every 4 months thing. It's the time anyone would expect it, I think.
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
they might do it like before, like, how do I put it?
Before the season's over?
Yeah, because it's like they might announce it before the season's over, and then start it like on May 1st or whatever, or April 1st.
Yeah,
April
like
1st, yeah.
announce everything, kind of like they did with Nax Ramas, which was like that was way too long, granted. But they could do like Nax-like release where they give you a bunch of cards to toy around with in your head, right? Just get you excited, and then when it launches, then you're super happy. Now I have to wonder though how much of that info they'll release, because like there's a bunch of stuff coming up, card changes, obviously the new expansion.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there that's going to be changing.
It's hard to juggle these expansions with a competitive schedule too,
Sure.
because so ideally, I think it is proper for them to release it after the season's over, just because like you want the whole season to be competitive season, championship season to be consistent, and have the players that have done well, continue to do well with whatever card sets and formats that have been in place, but they'll always want to. They're always going to want to announce the expansions somewhere in there too. So if they do announce just the cards, give us some spoilers or whatever, it's going to take away from the championships to a degree too, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's just going to be like, oh gosh, okay, like let's get this over with, and then
put it in Arena, right? Like they did with
it's just-
GVG before GVG actually came out, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody had access to GVG cards in Arena. That was pretty cool, I thought, for the time that it lasted. So that might be a way to do it, since it's not adventure mode. So it's going to be like a huge, card pool added to everything that we have. So
Yeah.
Arena could benefit from it. And if they increase the rate at which you get them, like they've done with every single set that was current, then that also will make it more exciting while we wait for the championship to be over. So yeah, I dig that.
And I think they're not going to implement the new set like halfway through a month, because and then you only have like 15 days to climb, basically, the standard ladder. So, yeah, I think no matter what, it would make sense for them to implement it like on the first, basically. So, I would expect an announcement and card reveals like this month, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure.
For sure this month, and yeah, I think I guess the question is whether like mid-month or a little bit closer to the end of that March 27th date, right? But regardless, it sounds like I mean the date's looking like it's being, or we can start pointing at least a pretty good area, at least within a range, instead of just, hey, it's going to be in spring, you know what I mean? And people are just
that's a really
guessing,
big
is that
one.
March? Is that April? That sort of thing. But yeah, definitely excited about it. One thing that me and Noxious were talking about, or like we noticed that was Murkai was going to be, removed from standard. Figured we'd just bring this up since we're talking about standard. So reward cards, we never touched on reward cards and how they are handled, I guess, in just with this new, retiring of cards and things like that. The current reward cards, I think, will all be retired, right? I think that's the current situation of standard. But in the future, like, what do you guys think about, I mean, the same thing with reward. I mean, reward cards, will they just be, I guess, added or just have the same similar, as long as it's like a year old or a year and a half old, they'll be retired too, or that sort of thing? Or do you think the reward cards should be treated, I don't know, any different?
Have they even made any more reward cards? Like, that's the thing that you have to remember is we had Gelbin in the first BlizzCon where Hearthstone was there, and then you had ETC on the following year, and then the following year there was nothing. Right? There were no cards added to those people who attended or bought a BlizzCon ticket online. And then, Murkai was reward for getting one of each Murloc, and Parrot was the same thing for Pirates. But if they don't plan to add more reward cards, then that set could just be, never expanded on, or at least pretty much. So that's one of the ways it could do it. I don't know.
Or should they even be added to standard, period? Like any reward cards? I don't know. Reynad, what do you think about just reward cards generally? Should they continue doing it at all in the future, or should they even, if they do, should it even be added to standard? Since it's like they're generally gimmicky, except for Murkai. Murkai was like the only one I felt like was that's been viable.
I think that reward cards, I don't know, they're cool, and I hope they keep doing them, honestly. But I like the fact that they're not in standard. Murkai is good and all, but it's kind of an unfair reason, but it is like too good. Like the Anyfin deck is too good, so it's really good that that's being removed from standard. Like it's such a big deal. The Anyfin deck, like if the format that we're playing right now was just a little bit less broken, or if the Anyfin deck had like one more good card, then it would be beyond broken. Like the deck is a 1-card druid combo, and the second one is like, for infinite damage. So
as far as you're concerned, pretty much.
So it's not a healthy deck, and it's actually kind of good that it's not in standard. But it sucks for like people that want to build like a fun Murloc deck. But yeah, another big issue is Elite Tauren Chieftain. Like the card is actually very, very good. So it kind of sucks to see that leave, because if you had a standard format with very few 5-drops, it's actually a really high quality card in Tempo Mage, Druid, and Rogue. So
it's a spell slinger, right?
Sort of, yeah. It's like Azure Drake, but one-sided, because none of the spells you get off of it kill it. So they can't ever play their spell when you have a 5/5 on the board. So it's kind of like Lotheb. If you play it when you're ahead, you usually win. So yeah, kind of sucks to see that card gone, but
we've rarely seen that card though in competitive, right? I remember Nimsh playing it one time at an early.
It was good in Druid, man. It was really good in Druid a while back.
It's only because we had Nax, because there's Belcher Lotheb.
Yeah, it's true.
You remove Belcher Lotheb, you remove all the other 5-drops we have. Like, I mean, there were no 5-drops that were playable before like Naxxramas. There was Azure Drake and Stampeding Kodo.
Yeah,
and it's like,
was Kodo even a 5-drop back then? It was like you play with Humility on 6 or even later sometimes. So like you'd play it sometimes on 5, but
some people just played it on curve because there was no Haunted Creeper or Nerubian Egg or anything.
Right,
so it was actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the point is there might be a format where they like just don't print very generic good 5 drops. They might just print like a very specialized 5 drop, like the Ginny or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that kind of format, ETC actually would have been a really big deal, and I actually was looking forward to playing it in a lot of decks. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a card we played in tournaments a couple times even.
Mhm. It's a
in
fun
Druid.
card, that's for sure.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
get
like
some cool
Gelbin's unplayable
cards from it, yeah.
completely. So
Yeah, Gelbin's okay in
there's a
some
way to
control
play it.
priest decks,
Yeah.
but we have Double Entomb and True Silver or Justicar True Heart. So we just have like too many 6 drops to play Gelbin for a long time until TGT and League rotates out.
Rotate, yeah.
Kelvin.
He's actually okay in
Just-
priest,
I've
surprisingly.
had
Like that's
many
the one
chickens
place has
from
been played.
Kelvin. Oh man.
I remember Amaz played it in the tournament at some point. I guess like ultimately we're not gonna miss too much. And like we didn't talk about the parrot, but that guy could be a problem. And if it were in standard at some point when they print like one really sick pirate that can be used as standalone,
Yeah.
because then suddenly you can always fetch it no matter what class you're playing, and that could have been a problem in very like isolated cases. We haven't had those problem cards yet, but if they ever want to print pirates, then parrot is a design limitation. And likewise, I think like Murkai is kind of cool for Murloc decks, but ultimately he doesn't like he's got charge number one, which is a problem, but he's also not fun. Like he doesn't have this crazy Neptulon feeling to him. He's just like a hard hitter, and you might want to expand on the Murloc tribe with something more thematic, I guess.
Right. Okay. Why don't we move on to some deck talk? We haven't talked about specific decks in a while, just because there hasn't been much to talk about. But this, the end of the season, right? Jackie Chan, who's was known prior to this for I think an Egg Druid deck. He's been coming up with some different decks.
Yes.
Made this Camel deck popular by getting to rank 1 with it recently. So that's been the trend. The faddish, I guess, deck of at least the last week is this Camel deck. And I tried playing it last night. I played probably about 15, 20 games with it. And I saw you playing it, Ray, like on stream maybe a couple nights ago too. What do you guys think of this deck, and just the unique elements? We can kind of show it on screen here in just a sec. Why is this deck good? Yeah, especially at the top ranks. Because when I was playing it against, I was running into a few, at least early on in the season. So I was running into a lot of aggro decks, and it was hard to play against aggro decks with this deck. So wanted to see what you guys think is the strong matchup. Reynad, what do you think?
It beats up on Druid.
Yeah.
Most of the games it wins are because people misplay against it. Like once you're aware that it doesn't have burn, it's actually very easy to play against. Yeah, I played it. It's really well built. I like that it has very few dead cards. It's just like once people are even remotely aware of what's in it, the deck becomes pretty mediocre, which is unfortunate. But yeah, there's that meta game like a few days ago where it was just nothing but Druid.
All Druid.
Secret Paladin.
Yeah.
So if you draw Unleash in the Paladin matchups and then you queue into Druid a lot, then you end up climbing really fast with this deck. So I mean it's definitely not bad. I don't know how good it is. Like once people know that it doesn't play burn, it lets you play in. It lets you like fight for board basically without worrying about your life total, and then this deck is just not as good at fighting for board as every other class. So
yeah,
it's funny seeing the Cult Master in the Hunter deck. I mean, I haven't seen Cult Master in Hunter since Unleash first came out. The new version of Unleash, or this current version of Unleash, came out. So seeing that card is really, really cool. And then the Camel too. What do you guys think about just generally Camel? I think Ray, you've liked that card. I think in the past, right? Or I think when we were first reviewing Camel, you liked it?
Yeah, I tested a lot of different decks with Camel.
Yeah.
All of them I settled on Zombie Chow because Qualdir was like just trash on its own when you draw it, and then it's still good to get a 2/3 off of Camel, but if you naturally draw it, I'd rather have the 2 extra stats.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But yeah, I'm not sure if Qualdir or Chow is better in this deck. I still think Chow probably. But yeah, Camel's good. Like there's some matchups where it's insane, like against Rogue, and then there's some matchups where it's really bad, like Priest.
Priest can be really tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's true.
Yeah,
Noxious,
it
you
depends on
played
your
this deck
board,
much?
really, though. Well, I played.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I'm surprised this deck ever even works because when I tried similar lists before, which were like trap lists and spell lists, and they resemble this a lot. Like everybody who built Camel decks, probably went for the kind of Sunshine Hunter approach, like the pre-Nax Hunter type, and it looked a lot like this back then. You know, obviously barring some cards we have now. The thing is, Glaivezuka carries this deck. Like I keep bringing it up, but without Glaivezuka, this deck wouldn't be able to do very much. Like you can't sub Glaivezuka out for a bow in this deck. I feel like you just lose out too often on your early curve, even with a 2-drop. You need to get that. Like sometimes you need that 1-drop plus Glaivezuka to kill even stupid stuff like Aspirant, or you prevent them from playing that 2-drop themselves, and then you're able to kind of get that Desert Camel ball rolling. I just don't know, like, if the deck can really stick around, as you said, because it's predictable. I was telling ChanManV I just don't like. It's the type of deck that has novelty, and because of that, nobody knows what to do against it. But as soon as it's figured out, it's just dead in the water. And now the question is it able to tech burn back in? Like, is it able to find room to bring back in the quick shots and the kill commands? And if so, is it better to stick to a list like this or go back to the typical mid range? And is Kvaldir worth keeping at that point, or are you better off with Chow,
Well,
even Clockwork Gnome for hell's sake? Like, there's so much stuff you could justify.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, like you said, it's definitely good to see a deck evolve, just to kind of trying to make it just a mainstay. But it's pretty hard to do. So it's hard to do with just a hunter deck generally. But it's good to have these type of decks, though, to keep like Druid in check. I mean, Druid was just going crazy. Just the second half of the season this month was literally all Druid, and there was no reason for people not to play Druid. We saw it in competitive events too, right? Just lots and lots of Druid. So this kind of getting popular at the end, and it's kind of cool. Kind of definitely cool for it to, again, just to have folks be able to climb the ladder really quickly with this deck. One thing I noticed when I was playing it, there's a lot of RNG, man, in this deck.
And what?
Just lots of knives, lots of flame jugglers, lots of web spinners. I mean, it makes it fun that way, but at the same time, it makes you pull your hair out a lot of times when you're playing this deck, because there's not a lot of room for, like, there's not a large margin for error either with this deck. So you got to play it pretty well just to win. None of my games were just like stomps. I felt like every game that I played last night was really, really close. It came down to the last turn a lot of times. So it's fun in that regard, but not the simplest deck to play either.
Yeah, this deck also really shows us like how tilting Flame Juggler is going to be after standard.
Absolutely, it's Knife Juggler number 2 is how I feel sometimes.
Yeah.
Why would they make
2-3.
it?
I don't know, man.
The same. Like it's like Crackle level design. Like just why does that need to be in the game?
Well, they made
Nobody
2 cards.
enjoys it. Nobody's like, oh wow, Flame Juggler. This is giving me awesome nostalgia of World of Warcraft.
Fun. Yeah,
look at how flavorful and skill intensive this is. I'm really enjoying Hearthstone right now. No, like you break peripherals every time it's played. I don't understand like why.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It's just I don't know. Cards like that I really think are just bad design, to be honest. But
yeah, well, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised we start seeing that a lot post standard, or at least in more decks. But so another I guess discussion I think would be pretty interesting is that we're seeing this deck all of a sudden become viable, and people, and just Jackie Chan specifically coming up with a deck that does counter the meta. A lot of folks have just been content with the fact that the meta, or at least at this point, the meta has just been settled, right? And there's just like no place for new decks to come into into play and for it to arise and that sort of thing. But we see a deck like this. We see Fibs like Warrior deck, just with the Death Wings, and even just the Druid Egg deck that even Jackie Chan came up with maybe a month or two ago. Mm-hmm. If we had folks like, if we had more folks like the Jackie Chans and yourself, and just doing it like literally 12 hours with decks, would we see a lot more decks just at the top of the meta rankings right now, like Reynad? I mean, is there still room that we just haven't deck teched fully yet? I mean, it's not completely discovered.
The thing is, it's not like a lack of innovation, or it's not. How to put it? Like in card games, the metagame can't ever settle. There's always new decks that you can come out with that'll be good for a day or two, and get you to like high ranks.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how I put it. Like having more Jackie Chans or whatever would help. You know, there would be more of these like cool decks or whatever that you could play for a day or two, but they're not like basically the metagame is very refined and it's established, but that doesn't mean there's no room for new decks. It just means that the best decks are already like discovered. So when a deck like this Camel deck comes along, it can be really good for like a specific ladder metagame for like 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Druid and Secret Paladin will just go back to having a higher win rate a few days later.
Yeah.
Because they're just better. So that's kind of what it does. Like the decks that we're used to seeing now are very polished. They're very broken, and they just have the highest win percentages of anything you can play in the long run over like several weeks. So I don't think there's room for another like tier 1 60% win rate in all metagames deck. But yeah, I mean there's definitely room for like new decks to come out and be good for like short periods of time, basically against specific things.
Yeah, playing Hearthstone sometimes it's like the stock market. You can day trade and pick these like these decks like this and win for like a day, or you could just choose just the good old druids and secret paladins and just grind for the long run and that sort of bit. So it's pretty funny, pretty tough.
Yeah, well, it's card games.
I agree with you though.
It was the same everywhere. Like, there's no card game where I don't think that happens. Like, you'll have the really weird dude. Like, there's in MTG, there's always like that random guy coming up with some like they're called rogue decks over there. Like, there's no rogue class, but basically, like the guy comes in with that random gimmick, and he just happens to get through the top page. You're like, what the fuck is this? And then you play it more and more, and then you just realize the deck sucks. But he made it, right? And it's not so much the deck itself is bad. It's just that everything else, once it knows what's up, just knows how to play against it, and it can adapt its its general game plan without even having to tech very often. Like, so that you don't even have to tech your deck, and you still beat it as long as you know what's up. So that's the problem. But yeah, it's fun, I guess, to make new decks.
Okay, well, let's move on. Let's talk about some tournament mode, or at least have some brainstorming on tournament mode. Yongwoo was on an interview recently with another podcast, Well Played, and he mentioned that he was taking, or they were taking feedback for tournament mode. Didn't really give any more specifics for that, but I just took that as okay. Well, maybe they're thinking about starting it or starting to design it, and they want some feedback. So why not have us, three of us, kind of talk about it a little bit and see what's an ideal tournament mode. So I'll start things off. So in terms of, I guess, just the mode itself, I'd like for us to have, or just all players to have the ability to enter into a very small bracket, that would last, I don't know how many rounds. I guess let's start off with that. Like, if we were to have a tournament mode, how long would you want the tournament or the experience to be? Should it be like a 4-man tournament, 8-man tournament, 16-man? What do you guys think?
Custom? Why? What about custom? Like,
Okay,
you just said the amount of players you wanted, and the rules said we'll decide. If people get disqualified because they end up dropping out, well, that's their prerogative. If they sub to a 16-man tournament, they don't end up playing their games, and that's their issue. It's going to be more punishing though than something like Arena, right? Because the point of Arena is you can just leave it and come back, whereas this would be a lot more engaging in the way that you have to attend Hearthstone competitively. Like, literally, this is the competitive mode that everybody kind of wants, I guess, as an alternative to ladder.
Okay. So, I mean, that's kind of why I think the duration is probably something to discuss. Reynad, what are you thinking about, like, duration of it or how it should be set up?
I don't think it should be a bracket.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've ever played Magic Online, but it's terrible. Like, there's literally like 30-40 minute downtimes. You have to wait for every match to finish before you can play your next one.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of things that people don't realize make Hearthstone good. And number one, it's that it's a game that's just designed so you never have to commit more than like 10 minutes to play it. So I think they could do tournament mode in a way without losing that, and I would rather they do tournament mode. The way I would do it if I were Blizzard, I would just make it like Arena, where you don't even enter a tournament. It's just like constructed, and then if you get you know, up to like 6 wins in a row or whatever in a best of 3 type of thing or something, then you get like rewards accordingly. But it's just like a pool of constructed players, and you get paired against people with the same wins as you. I think that's a much better way to do it. I really don't like the concept of
wait
like
time
a bracket and committing to a bracket.
Yeah, like I've lost a lot of drafts in MTG. I think you're right. Like the time you spend waiting is just annoying. Makes the entire thing really. Like you just drop out. I very often just drop out. I can't be bothered to stay there.
Well, I mean, it's just our gaming, our user experience with Hearthstone. There's zero wait. I mean, there's literally nothing that we wait on, right? I mean, unless there's the queue is taking forever, which never happens these days, right? So yeah, having some kind of format where we would have to wait like literally 15, 20 minutes possibly, would be, that definitely would be pretty bad. It's definitely a good argument against it. Even StarCraft, StarCraft has tournament mode right now. And I mean, a lot of times, people there are definitely people that just drop out. So they get like buys the first round. And I've definitely had that happen a lot. And then so I'm literally just waiting like for first round stuff to complete. So my very first experience entering into the tournament mode is like a 20-minute wait, right?
That's awful.
Really bad. Yeah. So I think I think format wise, that's a good design, just to have at least more options for people to play immediately. From standpoint of prizes, I mean, anything specific? I mean, prizes generally have just been, packs, dust, and gold. I mean,
what else do you want?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it would be. Maybe like some card back swag, or like if you reach a certain level, or if you win some stuff, like that could be. I mean, I wish there was a way like a medal, right? Like that would be displayed in game instead of card backs necessarily, like something else that could display that you've done. Like I don't know if I've played Duelist, but when you've reached, let's say, 100 wins with a given class or a given hero, you've got this little banner that shows up next to your, on the interface somewhere. It shows that you, as a player, have won, let's say 500 games with a class. And the opponent has a way to gauge just how good you are, or how much you've played, rather. Never mind, just how much you played.
Yeah.
So that could be something to put in, and it could tie into some more aesthetics than just card backs.
So are we talking best of ones here, or
three? I would do best of 3, but
best of 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, best of 1 is like, why not just play ladder games in a row?
Yeah, right. Pretty much.
Yeah, especially that format. Yeah.
Best of 3, if they just put like a 30-second countdown timer in between games to select your next deck, that's probably the way to do it. But yeah, like again, that's still very un-Hearthstone-y, because then you're committing to more than 10 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
But also, if they were best of 1s, then it's just like the same as ladder with different rewards. So.
I'd take that. First, second,
I don't
third.
know, man. They already have chess, dude. Like, I don't know. It would be weird.
Chess. Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's like if you have the bracketing, then that's another logistical issue. I mean, basically, Young was trying to figure out what people want out of that mode, because they talked about the fact that they were working on that before Tavern Brawl came out, and they opted to do Tavern Brawl instead. So they're definitely working on a tournament mode, but the integration of it is, I think, going to come down to that problem you mentioned, which is how long do you make players wait? It's not even the rewards. That's easy to kind of tackle. If you're Blizzard, just give people stuff. Like, I don't know how much, but you give them stuff. But how do you implement it without it feeling like it's bogging down your play?
Yeah, I mean, I think a pool of players is, I think that's a good idea, but then we have to question, like, okay, how big is this pool of players? And then, where's the cutoff, right? 6 games, like you said, or is it 8 games? And then, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of ties, right, at the top when that kind of thing happens. I mean, it depends on how many games.
It's not one winner. There's lots of people that get 12 wins in arena.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. So it's not comparative to the rest of the contestants, or at least in your pool. Okay, I can see what that means. It wouldn't be really a tournament format then, right? It would just be a different.
It kind of be. It's best of 3, so it gives you the ability to not have to roll dice once and be done with it. Like, you actually have a chance to maybe get your favorable matchups to go in your favor for real, given that you're rerunning the match after you're done with the first one. So yes, I think in that way, yes, it's not a tournament in the classic way, but it definitely gives you, as a competitive player, you're enjoying the experience more, because there's more planning going into your next game than just, well, let's see who I face off against now. It's always going to be that next, the same deck they're going to be running against. So
yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think those are good ideas. Hopefully, Yangwoo and those guys get a chance to take that into consideration. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so some Reddit drama. I figure we just touch on this just a little bit. And the part that I want to touch on, Reynad's gone on and like, and explained everything on his stream and really talked about just that whole, that whole thing with the Trump donation thing. But the thing that came up that I thought that was interesting, or I wanted to talk a little bit about, is just that the notion of showing Reddit threads on stream, seemed to be in question because there's a Reddit rule that's basically, you can't do things to like instigate brigades, right? I mean, that's the big thing, right? And viewing threads on stream seems to be included in that, but at the same time, it doesn't make any sense too, because it's just like, what if I'm looking at a Reddit thread that's like super old, right? And has nothing to do with like anything, like let's say I'm looking at one that's 2 years old, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And, what does that have to do with like brigading at all? Like in terms of that particular thread or that sort of thing. So and just generally, you would think that Reddit would want people to market their market their site too in some way, right? So this whole notion, I think, is strange. I kind of wanted to see what you guys think of it. Noxious, I'll have you start, and then Reynad.
Sure. So I mean, like the whole making sure that like you go out of your way. Because the thing is, like, what they do is basically each subreddit is like, funny enough, it's a public platform, but it's privately moderated, whereby the guys who are in charge of any subreddit, not just Hearthstone, but any subreddit, ultimately just have no one to report to, unless they're doing some really. I think there's a way to report to the higher ups, so they actually take action if something deeply wrong goes in as far as the censorship. But even then, like whoever makes the subreddit owns the subreddit for the most part. So unless the community, uproars, nothing's going to change. And when they go out of their platform, which is outside of Reddit, to find people, like to watch or monitor people's behavior in regards to Reddit, I think that's really weird. Like if you say looked at a link, right? Like where the traffic comes from. So if you notice that a thread gets upvoted by, say, 500 users who come in from a Twitter link that a guy posted because he posted his thread, then you have a legitimate way to track using just your, I guess your website and its data to know where people have been brigading from. But when it comes to, looking at a stream, I mean, that's kind of a different story, I think. I don't know. It feels like streams are personal space. I don't come to your house and check what you're doing with your internet. So it's weird.
Yeah, but even your example about tweeting, right? And tweeting is like the method that they're always talking about in terms of brigading. Yeah. I mean, there are many different ways that it can be construed when you tweet something. I mean, obviously, if you tweet like, guys, go to this thread and upvote it and just like cause, comment on it and cause craziness into this thread. I mean, that's obvious. That is absolutely brigading or just encouraging brigading and that sort of thing. But if it's just like, hey, check this cool, thread out that talks about, it's just some video in Hearthstone or some, new deck in the Hearthstone. I mean, that can be constituted the same as brigading in their eyes, I think. So it's really, I don't know.
Vague, it's intentionally vague.
I know it's vague, but it's sad because you can just like get screwed like either way, or you're scared to even market the site at times, or market like some thread that you actually like, and it's kind of shitty that way. Reynad, what do you think about it?
I don't think it is shitty for you. You should never be worried about getting banned for looking at something on your stream. Like unless your name is Reynad, there will be no consequence for anyone. And I promise you that. I would bet money on that, but if they see this, they would like intentionally do it to somebody to show equality, like same way they remove Trump posts after I bitch.
Right.
But no, it's yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's weird because it's not a baseless argument. Like if I pull something up on stream and I like decide to shit talk this thread because it's stupid, like 90% of them are, then like on stream the consequence that will happen is even if I don't tell people to vote, they're gonna go to that thread and like spam it and downvote and stuff. Or if I like promote something on stream and I'm like, oh, I know this comment's hilarious, and they go onto Reddit and they upvote that comment. That's just how it works. And a lot of like spam is associated with that. Like they'll just start posting a million Twitch memes and then the thread goes to shit.
Who does that?
So there's definitely a reason to like not do that, or like to not have it be allowed. But it's also like how do I put it? Like, if I talk about an interesting subject on stream,
Mhm.
people like post the highlight of that onto Reddit, and then that gets a bunch of upvotes. Then it's like
That's
like the
weird.
same thing in reverse.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like Inception. That's a weird thing.
But
Yeah.
but then like what if the thing I'm complaining about is a Reddit thread? Like that's happened before. Like
Mhm.
I'm complaining about a Reddit thread and then people post the highlight and it becomes its own Reddit thread and then like am I and then the votes in the other thread adjust accordingly. Like am I brigading that? Like I don't know. Um yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, mods are fuckboys. I don't think that that threat applies to anyone besides me, and I think that it's not even so much like to keep the subreddit healthy. It's more like if we're going to ban Reynad, he's not going to care, so we need an excuse to ban his content as well, and we'll use this as an excuse. So that's like more of what I think that's coming from. It's not like they're not blanket saying like, "Oh, never look at Reddit threads on stream." That's just stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
That's,
gosh.
that's actually a really weird one because it's like that's what I was saying to ChanManV. Really, it's like it's invasive when it starts being monitored. They start monitoring stuff that isn't even on Reddit. Like that's where I start having an issue with the whole moderation part of it. It's like I guess it reminds me a bit of the whole employers doing a background check on you, like beyond the reasonable. Has this guy committed murder or is he like a sex offender? Like when they start looking at your private Facebook posts and you said something really stupid 5 years ago, and they say we're not going to take you on because of that. Like that's kind of where I feel that's really wrong, and I kind of put those two as equivalences on that front. So it's weird. I don't know. Maybe it's not the way you should look at it, but I can't help but feel it's I don't know. It feels unhealthy, and I don't want to say unfair either, because like I don't know how much they would extend that to someone else. Like I can't tell if it's unfair. Reina, like you obviously seem to think so. Like Andre, you
Well,
obviously
in this
seem
particular case, I think it was
sure.
pretty clear. I mean, I think both acts were very, had at least similarities in nature,
Yeah.
and one was obviously pulled at the time, and and this one was allowed. I mean, for me, I wish both of them were just allowed. I mean, I think it's
Okay.
fine. Like I wish it was just. I think I didn't really have a problem with the nature of that particular Trump donation one, but it was really a question of just like the
The thing
Really, I
is,
don't know,
had
dude.
had I complained about it in a different way, both of them would have been allowed. Had I been like, "Hey, why?" Had I not even brought up the Trump post at all and been like, "Hey, why is my post removed here? That's kind of bullshit." Then they would have like unbanned it. But like because I used the Trump thing as a comparison, then for equality's sake, they're going to remove the Trump one after the fact to like
yeah, which
after
is
after it's farmed, 1,300 points in 20 hours and gotten all the PR out of it.
Yeah.
Then it's okay to remove
That's-
that for equality's sake. Reynad's post is gone in 2 minutes, but yeah, I don't know. It the subreddit's not perfect, but at the end of the day, like the problems just arise from like the natural bias that any human being's gonna have,
Yep.
and it's like they're volunteers, they're not experts.
yeah, but there are
I get it.
multiple. Like it's not even just like a single person making a decision
Yeah,
sometimes.
but I mean, have you seen Reddit make decisions about what to upvote? It is a single person. It's a single mentally impaired person. Like it just like it's a collective. It's not. There's no independent thought or decision making or spine in the case of the mods. So
Right.
yeah, it's like the problems arise from like human issues, and it's just not really worth like complaining about it every time they do something that's like biased or stupid. I think I've just kind of given up on it.
All right, so let's bury it then, right? Let's just bury the entire topic and never bring it up again unless something outrageous happens.
Yeah.
I guess that's the way to do it,
I
right?
think it's the way to approach it.
That's
yeah, to be
healthy.
Yeah.
Let's
honest.
do this. Let's do
Yeah,
this.
because
then.
honestly, there's going to be something every other week.
Yeah, obviously.
That's definitely true. Okay, guys. Well, why don't we do some Q&A with the viewers here? If you guys want to send your questions to ValueTalentGG, or you can tweet them at ChanManV too, and I'll read them out as we're getting them. Let's see. Prabnor asked, "Hey guys, what class are you going to be playing the most in Standard when it comes to? I guess what class are you going
No clue.
Yeah, no clue exactly. And this is the only question we've got so far. That's where I'm asking it. All right, guys. No clue. Definitely not Druid. Actually, just my at least inclinations are not to play Druid. I can tell you that.
What? It'll
Yeah,
be
just right
fun
off
if I
the
can
bat.
heal myself a bit instead of just having to go broke back.
I mean,
I wanna
I've
play
played
Resto
it and
Druid,
seen
man.
it too, like way too much. So I'm just not gonna play it. Like I'm hoping Rogue or something that I haven't played in a while is gonna come back and be fun again. Or even Hunter to some degree. Hunter would be fun to play too.
Yeah.
If,
I guess I had a question also tying to that since we're waiting for questions. Reynad, like, and I guess Chris as well, if you have some input on that, what would it take for rogues to get? Because like we talk about druids having so many auto includes in their deck, like in the basic set. How do you make rogue not have the same problem? Like, how can you even? It feels really tough.
The Raptor card's like a good step. Like
Mhm.
Unearthed Raptor, you need build around cards like that make you like build your deck in a different way that isn't just like a pile of the best cards. But if you give it another just like good removal spell, like another backstab, then it doesn't like increase variety at all. It just gives you another auto include. So they have to be kind of careful with how they design cards for that class. Rogue is a very it's like one of my favorite classes to play, but it's also like one of the worst design classes in the game. Second worst design behind Priest. And it's like it's super frustrating to play against. It's probably like the second most frustrating deck to play against in the game. Some like top three. It's like very snowbally and everything like that. So a lot of cards that have the potential to be really imbalanced, like prep and backstab. So it's very like dangerous to print a lot of things for that class. Even conceal, like a mechanic that
Yeah.
arguably shouldn't even be in the game, like stealth. So yeah, it's hard, man. I don't know how they would. I think cards like Unearthed Raptor are the way to go, though. They need to like make a build around card, like a theme type of thing, and maybe put it into a shell where like preparation's not good, something like
Yeah,
that.
try to find a way where that's not something you want to play like automatically.
Mhm.
Which I think
I
that's
mean-
actually like the Unearthed Raptor is that deck, right? Like you very rarely see it. Anyway, what were you saying, Chris?
Oh, I mean, I've I played a lot of Death Rattle Rogue just trying to
Okay.
make it work, and I mean, I love the Raptor for sure, but I think generally the issue with Rogue is there's just not a lot of great Rogue minions. You know what I mean? Like it's the same kind of with Priest, right? The similarities between the two classes is that it's very spell heavy. You know, like when you build both of those types of decks right now, there's more spells than probably everything but like a freeze mage or something like that. So I run into that a lot with Raptor, or at least with Rogue. And now that Death Rattle's gonna be taken out, I want them to add Death Rattle cards that are 2 drops or 1 drops that's specific to Rogue. I think that would help. Well, one of the issues when I was playing just Death Rattle Rogue is that you lose tempo so fast in the beginning. Like you can't consistently keep the board clear or not lose board when you play egg. You play egg and you play like the ideal I think sequence is egg raptor argus or something like that, and that's like okay, that's that's an awesome start, right, for that type of deck. And it's not very consistent. I mean, drawing those 3 cards in sequence is very rare, and then combinations of 2 of those cards with I don't know, like a backstab or something isn't that great either, because you usually just lose board.
I mean,
and hoping to come back later.
like going back to the Unearthed Raptor, like have you guys seen the list that Ting Tong? I don't even like. Do you guys know Ting Tong in the first place? Like he's just a
I
pretty good
don't.
player.
think I
Anyway,
know.
Ting Tong and Black Wolf built like this Death Rattle Rogue that's like super aggressive, running
Oh,
like
yeah.
double Epernome, double
Yeah.
South Sea Clockwork. They have the eggs and like 1 Cold Blood, so it's not going the Bran route. Rather, it's like double oil in a deck that's not all Rogue. So it's trying to like get that turn tempo you're talking about. Like they're playing like 5/1 drops, just making sure they get there. They've got the 2 backstabs. There's no prep. They don't rely on it. They don't rely on Blade Flurry necessarily because they're trying to be more aggressive. It's a deck that's like I feel like, as you said, Unearthed Raptor is getting there as far as a good archetype that doesn't rely on massive amounts of preps, spells, just general spells, really. So
I mean,
it's almost there. It's almost there.
I played with that one too, just an aggressive version of
Okay.
the Raptor, and it's a tiny bit slower than your crazy fast oil rogue. Like I've played the super aggressive oil rogue too, and I don't think it's any better or worse. You know what I mean? Like generally speaking, it's not faster, to kill like decks that are susceptible to fast decks. So it's like worse than that. And then at the same time, it's not good enough, with its sustainability, which is with the eggs and the death rattle on the Raptor, to beat a lot of decks that are just mid-range decks too. So it's like somewhere in between. It's cool, and sometimes you have some games that are just like amazing, and it feels, like the tempo of it feels a little bit like an aggressive zoo deck or something.
Yeah,
But
that's kind of what it's trying to do.
yeah, but it's not better than zoo, you know what I mean? So it ends up being like, okay, why am I playing this then? It's just worse version of a lot of different things I could do.
Yeah. What if Rogue got like a 2-drop that whenever they attacked with their hero, they drew a card? That'd be something they could use, like, because they don't need
every time they get attacked. Okay.
No, when they attack.
Oh, when
draw
they
a card.
attack. Oh.
Yeah, so like they don't have any kind of Wind Fury attacks. It's like once per turn and it has to be on the board.
Okay, so it's like
it would be an auto
wisdom
include. Yeah,
like on it or something.
pretty
like
much. I don't know if that feels to me like it could help the whole. I don't need prep sprint in my deck.
I mean, they added the 2-drops, which it's the problem I have with the 2-drops that they added. They're not. I mean, unless it's coin. Yeah, I mean, unless you coin into one of them. One's a combo, right? And the other one is it gives +1 to your weapon, but it's a 2-drop. So like, unless you coined your weapon, you don't usually get it. You don't get the benefits of it on the 2. So the 2-drops, I generally think are not designed great. They're not designed to be played on 2. It's more likely 3 or 4. So a new 2-drop would be good. A new 2-drop would be good. A 1-drop that's not like that you can't remove with a ping, or like half of the hero powers can't remove it. I think would be nice too. Because the snake's cool. It's just
I wish they just flipped the stats on it.
Yeah,
1/2 would make it actually playable.
Yeah, that'd be so much better.
I think a lot of the problem though is just like the currently existing minions that you're trying to deal with early game in the other decks. It's like, for example, I think Lowly Squire is actually exceptional in Rogue. It's a fantastic card. And I've gotten Legend playing it 3 months ago, like Lowly Squire Rogue, and I think that'll be really common after Standard. Like, it'll be really good when you're not competing with like zombie chows and shielded mini bots and seeker keepers and haunted creepers. It's just like once everyone else's early minions kind of suck, then Lowly Squire will kind of help you trade up. And then hero power turn 2. Rogue is like one of the only classes in the game where you're okay hero powering turn 2. So
yeah.
I think
there was a time where Rogue's hero power was considered, like up next to life tap, the best one, right? It generally is, but just in the meta right now, it's just like hasn't really been that great.
And the class just hasn't gotten cards in so many expansions, and it's still competitive. Like that's
just goes to show how careful you got to be with it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. The next question I have here. Which of Keeper of the Grove or Ancient Allure would you prefer changed? I think we talked about this some. I think Ancient Allure, right, is the super broken card.
It's tough to say, dude. Like,
really? You think it's pretty close between the two?
Yeah.
I want to.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I think it's a lot closer than you think. I think that, like, removing the silence or like trying to tone down Ancient, like those two kind of, I don't know, could be done. It's hard to say. What do you prefer? I don't know.
I think the silence mechanic in general, like they should ask whether that should even be in the game.
Yeah.
So that's like one reason Keeper's kind of worrisome. But then also with Innervate, it upsets me like how you like, can't lose to aggro if you Innervate Keeper. And it's like not an uncommon opener as a druid. So I don't know, like it feels really bad to get Innervate Keeper if you're an aggressive deck, but it also like feels terrible to get cool cards silenced. So Keeper is definitely sketchy. Ancient of Lore is mostly good because it draws you into combo. So without combo, maybe that card's okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
okay. Yeah,
I think without Innervate, Ancient is less of a problem, but Keeper is always, like with Innervate, it's always a problem. I just don't like silence, I guess. Maybe I'm just biased, but I hate that mechanic.
Yeah, but silence is going to be, silence is going to be in the game, right? So
sure.
It's just, I think,
I hope they tone down
they're gonna
owls.
Remove everything. I mean, they can't.
Make the owl summon, like, I don't even know. Like, make it just do sounds. You know what?
Do sounds?
Just say, like, you turn all your emotes into hoot hoot, and it becomes, like, a fun card. And every time you emote, it just says hoot hoot. That's what I want to see. I want to see, like, this card just erased from the game. I'd rather just not see
I would
it
like
ever again.
I would like it to go
just owl. If they just tone down owl, I think we're solving a lot of the silence issues that I have personally. But
so it would be okay for them to have a something like Spellbreaker, like something that's more expensive, and then with the silence. Okay.
I don't mind it as much. I mind it, but not as much.
It's less flexible, so I mean that would be that would make sense in that from that standpoint. Okay, Hypno asks. By the way, that question was from Classic. Hypno asks, "Will we ever see a non-aggro shaman again? And why is Noxious Beard so sexy?" Of course, we're going to see a non-aggro shaman viable eventually. It's just a matter of time. It's just, I guess, why don't we phrase that? What type of shaman do you see, or would you like to see, becoming viable again? The combo variant, or just more of a mid-range? What we've kind of seen in the past. Reynad?
I like the mid-range deck a lot. The only problem with the mid-range deck is it kind of like draws the game out, and you have like several interactive turns. So in a longer game, you're gonna roll more totems, and like that's a lot of RNG. I hate that hero power. So it's like it's kind of like tilting to play the mid-range deck in a lot of games. But yeah, I mean, if they print like new AoE so that you don't have to play cards like Lightning Storm, then I actually think it'd be pretty cool to play Shaman. Like the mid-range Shaman's really fun.
I want to see some Earth Shatter or something, or Earth Shake, or some type of AoE that has, or some
Earthquake. Yeah, I'm sure they could do Earthquake.
Yeah, Earthquake or something like that. That would be kind of cool.
Like Lightning Storm would probably be better if it always did 2 damage.
Yep.
Like, yeah. So I'm not baited into like rolling for the 3 sometimes.
Like it would, like you'd say it's a bad card. Like if people would say, "Oh, it sucks that it always rolls low," but ultimately, like I would have a good reason to play that, Snowball, because now I know that I'm always gonna roll high. Like I'm not gonna rely on that RNG half the time, lose my storm too early, and then not build my deck around it. So yeah, for sure.
I'd like to see a combo, just some type of combo shaman I have some viability.
Yeah.
Those have always been the fun decks for people to play, right? The Malagus variant, or I mean, I played the Reincarnate one. That's really fun. There's been the Zeus deck in the past. That's been kind of cool, right? That would be neat. I think that's the one thing that's reached top tier. Malagus was really close, probably at one point, but it was never top tier at all. Yeah, it'd be nice to see that if Shaman had that ability. We've seen the aggro type. We've seen mid range, right? It'd be nice to see something.
Leroy Wind Fury, back in mid range, the early mid range days, like that Rockbiter weapon. Going back to it is like, it's just like Power Overwhelming, Blessing of Might, Rockbiter weapon. Like all these cards are just like, oh hi, can I Faceless and or Wind Fury? Okay, then I have a combo deck.
I think it'd be nice if they had more, or at least maybe cheaper cards that affected totems too, like either buff totems or. Because the hero power it would take a huge change for them to alter that by a lot, like completely just changing it altogether. They'd have to change a lot of cards that are already associated with it too. So it'd be nice to see some more. Thunderbluff's just too expensive, and Flame Tongue's always been essential, right, to that type of mid-range shaman. So something else that's along those lines, I think would be cool. Would help, at least would help the hero power be so a little bit better. What do you think about the cards that change just the shaman specific hero power, like the weapon, right? Is it the charged hammer or that?
I think the weapon's good. I think the weapon's actually good. I'm surprised we haven't seen like any of it, or at least very little of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a cool design. I wish they'd be a little bit more aggressive with changing hero power. They're very, I don't know, like Blizzard appreciates how strong that kind of effect is. So like Shadow Form and Charged Hammer are both a little bit overpriced, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's life.
Yeah, that's definitely life. Okay, let's see if I can take one or two more. If you guys want to get your questions last minute, ValueTown GG, tweet your questions there. All right, here's one for, I guess, the 3 of us. It's from Classic again. What type of meta do you prefer? Just full control or the mid-range that we have right now?
I have control. I like control a lot more.
Right, you've always seemed to be more the aggro and just like steered more there, but I just don't know if it's just because the cards are the way they are, the meta is the way they are. Which do you prefer, like just I guess generally as a player?
Control meta again. Well, I don't know. It hasn't really been an aggro meta. People just call whatever they lose to cancerous. They call whatever they lose to aggro.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it sure seems aggressive when it's hitting you for 30 and you're not hitting for any damage because you suck. Like, yeah. But No, it's not. It hasn't really been an aggro meta in a long time. There hasn't been an aggro meta ever in Hearthstone, I don't think.
No, no,
It
like the
started
face hunter meta. No, that's
it
right.
started as a control meta and then it went on to be a slower control meta and then for the past like year and a half, it's been a combination of patron and burst orient, including patron even. It's just burst oriented tempo decks, and that's been every single deck.
Yeah.
Druid, rogue, tempo mage, like everything that's high tier has been burst oriented tempo. And then you have tier two stuff like priest and all that. So, but yeah, I think I would like to see a meta that just doesn't have burst damage. But burst damage is also an intentional mechanic, I think, in Hearthstone. Like when I first started playing the game after a month, I noticed a pattern of like every single game, we both play some stuff and then somebody gets pyroblasted for lethal, or we both play some stuff and somebody gets Leroyed. Like that's what happened in the early days of Hearthstone.
Yep.
All the cards ending games were the burst cards. So it seemed like it was an intentional design to try to keep games under 10 minutes. Because if you remove all burst from the game, then imagine like what warrior control would be like. And you
Every
actually couldn't
single
die.
game, yeah.
So
We'd see fatigue where every single game. Yeah, that's true.
the deck would not only be too good, but it would also like it's like less enjoyable gameplay if everyone's building their decks in a way that the game lasts 30, 40 minutes. So yeah, I don't know if
I like
they
control
kinda
meta
need-
better, but I don't know which one is best for the game. Like I like when the meta game starts slowing down, but I instantly see it whiplash back into, oh, let me put a combo kill in my control deck to kill you faster, or to get that, that lethal faster than you do, and then suddenly we're back to, oh, might as well play mid range with that combo, and then suddenly my control deck suddenly starts falling apart. And
Yeah.
that's been kind of a cycle for Hearthstone, but we've never had like even if you look at Undertaker Hunter, which was probably the single most, like, this was the fastest game ending time of Hearthstone, I'd say. It's like if turn four, it's just like by turn three, if you lost. Very often you already kind of knew where you were going, unless your hand gave you like a really good chance. So even back then, like the deck was a mid range deck. It wasn't even hyper aggressive in the way that people associate with Face Hunter, with Arcane Golems charging you down.
Yeah, that's been mainly the only aggressive deck that we've seen
Yeah,
have some viability,
even-
just even in the history of Hearthstone.
Aggro Warrior. I remember
Warrior.
that. That was fun.
I've
Fun. I
lost.
don't know about fun, but it was something.
I've lost a face warrior recently twice, so
Yeah.
it pops up, and I know Ray plays it every once in a while too, even recently. So it's fun, man. When you get the right cards playing that deck, and there's nothing more gratifying than just like, oh yeah, I just like unleashed 4 weapons on that guy's face, and then Mortal Strike him at the
Yeah,
end.
that one's fun to play. Still holds the free to play record. It was
Yeah.
the very first
It's very
streamed
cheap.
free to play run. The very
true.
first streamed one, and then it hit. It was like 5 days.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get much faster than that deck. It's just if you can limit your opponent to 30 hit points, I mean, you're pretty good.
If they don't
Yeah.
have Belchers, right?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know if it could do it today though.
It's
No.
tough.
it
Yeah.
would be tough, I think. I mean, the deck suffers from a lack of card draw combined with having to use too many weapon charges on minions nowadays, which wasn't the case back then. Like you could actually very often ignore stuff.
I think
And
other decks are just better at racing you. It used to only be like 1 turn faster than the metagame, and even Druid Innervate still raced it. But yeah, now it's like it's tough, man, because every deck just kills you turn 6 if you're like trying to hit face and not kill their minions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to win.
It's I guess to answer my question. I mean, I guess my answer to that, to the original question, whether control. I think generally for the meta, we want it balanced, right? Just general, but I always prefer control. But I can't play control all the time, of course. But definitely, I enjoy that type of gameplay. Just more decision making and just more opportunities for decision making, given that there's just more turns generally. Except for when you're playing Fatigue Warrior, there's not that many decisions. Okay, Ventus asks, maybe this. We'll take 2 more. This one and another one. We've seen pirates, demons, mechs, etc. What other minion classification would you like to see in Hearthstone?
Ships.
Ships.
ships. Let's do this.
Ships.
Ships.
And
I mean, I want
inanimate
Nagas
objects
and
like
ogres.
cannons. Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
We could.
I need ogres, obviously.
We
That's the
have
one thing I
some
want.
ogres. Yeah, ogres. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. What would I want?
Nagas.
Knolls?
Those are cool. They could actually make like it's funny the card
Yeah.
back they announced, by the way. We didn't talk about this, but like the new card back we're getting, the something ruffian or whatever. with
Yeah,
Hogger.
yeah.
Does that say anything about the theme of the expansion at all? Like I'm curious to know if they're
I don't.
it's interesting, right? Like just think about it. Like they could actually do a null, like a crazy amount of nulls in the expansion just for fun. Because it is a cool subtype. It just
Yeah.
doesn't
It's one of the original ones too. So I think it would be. I mean, it's pretty new. There's not very many null characters right now in
well,
Hearthstone.
there's Hogger, dude.
There's
That's
Hogger.
it.
That's it, right?
Yeah, there's Hogger. That's all you got. And
It's-
I guess Treants as well. I'd love to see them do something with that besides just summoning them. Like get them something cool instead of just making them exist.
It'd be so specific to Druid though, wouldn't Treants?
Oh, but that would be the point. It would be Druid cards. But yeah, I'd
Yeah.
like to see that tribe. Be fun.
Man. Oh, here, I got a ship card for you.
Okay, go ahead. I
Sure,
wanna
it's like
see
on the
this.
ship design. All right, let's hear it.
Oh my
Okay, let me
god.
see
Take all
this.
the knife jugglers to sea and drown them.
All right, Ward, you might have to show this.
It doesn't
Oh,
actually
did
have
you
the
just make
ship.
this? Okay, you just made this. All right, let's see.
Yeah.
Dread ship Vesuvius. Okay. Summon a ship's cannon. Oh yeah, you talked about
Oh
summoning
my
a ship's
god,
cannon before.
Reynad.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna make a set one of these days.
That's the card I made a while back. Well, it's not the same, but it's like super similar.
Yeah,
I'm glad
I've been
we're
telling
happy
I've
about
been
ships.
telling Blizzard to make this card for over a year because I want pirates to be sort of a thing, but
So this
I
is
don't
like
know.
fill the board, basically. Fill the board with pirates and,
yeah, and shoot the cannon.
and shoot
Yeah,
the
dude,
cannon.
shoot the cannon. Yeah, you just
and
gotta
shoot the
do
cannon
it.
twice. That's true. Oh my god, I
Just
didn't even
gotta
see
do
that.
it.
I didn't even realize that part of it. Okay.
That's the cool part of
Okay.
it. That's what's
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
about cards like these. Just like you're shooting cannon right away, and it's a
Yeah.
standalone playable card. And you could have it be like, if you control a ship's cannon, then summon 3 pirates, right? Like, you have to have the cannon, but if you do, you're getting 3 shots and 3 pirates. So
Oh man, that's
Yeah, like, they could be
huge
busted.
snowball card right there.
Yeah.
No,
It's
but
fun.
yeah, I think that if you were just to add one card to help make pirates viable right now, I think that would be the card. Yeah, for sure. Cannon's so satisfying whenever you can keep it on the board for a turn. It's rare though. It's rare though.
Somebody asked what spectral pirates are. I'm still trying to figure that out because I think 2-1's like too broken. I think 1-1's too weak, and I think 1-2 is too broken. So
But
they
they'd,
have-
both the
they'd
cost,
still be
though, right?
pirates. See, the cool thing about spectral pirates is they'd still be pirates. It's not like
Yeah.
freaking those, spiders that are not beasts anymore, right?
Good lord,
Yeah.
if they were,
God.
I would leave the game. If they were beasts,
Yeah,
I would
it be
probably
broken.
never.
It would be broken
Yeah.
for sure. For
Beast Druid playable.
for Hunter, holy crap. Okay, yeah, I think that would be.
Oh,
ship-
yeah,
ships.
ship's cannon's not going to be in standard, man. It's rotating.
It's gone,
out.
dude. It's gone.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh
It's
god.
It's
time to shine.
Oh, I totally forgot Ship's Cannon was.
It's like Hemet, dude. It's gone. Then
Aw.
never will it kill a beast. No thrill, no hunt. That's it. It's just gone.
So
Okay.
are they gonna? I think we might have touched a little bit on this a couple weeks ago, but you think they'll rotate like just sets of card types like that, like just have mech come back for a year or just have mech come back in another year or two, and kind of do it that way? You think they'll do that once they? I mean, there's only so many like card types that we can do, so or at least categories that we can do over time. So you think they'll try to do that, or you think they'll mix some? Like they'll have maybe some releases that have like a combination of 2 of them, because there's always going to be some remnants of some of the types. Like there's going to still be a few mech guards, right? In a year or two, in the next year, the dragons will be gone. There'll still be a couple dragons and stuff like that. And I don't know if that's clean or not. I don't know, how do you guys, from the standpoint of design and just releases, like what do you foresee in the future?
As far as
Just
Sorry,
coming out with sets and then just having them reoccur, like in a full expansion. Because I'm thinking like with their each of expansions, they're gonna go full out on certain card types if they're introducing them, and just so that whenever they do get retired, they will get retired at the same time, right? So all of them will disappear at the same time.
Yeah, I kind of don't like that. I wish we had like more mechs coming out with sets for. I mean, we did sort of. We had Gorilla Bot, we had Clockwork Knight, and that was cool. I wish they just kind of like kept the themes going throughout sets a little bit more. Actually, they did a decent job. They had a bunch of dragons.
They're
Yeah,
They-
merging
they
a
have
lot.
been. They have
It's only
been.
because BlackRock was like such a failure. They had to
Yeah.
like overcompensate with dragons in the next set. But that's like,
Second release was terrible for dragons. This was crazy.
We tried. People did try though. But
Yeah,
it
we,
was
we all everybody tried, but
no good.
it took the priest cards, for it to actually be decent, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I think up to date, Reynad, I think they've done a good job with trying to continue these themes. But now we're going to see them kind of just start retiring, right? So mechs there's still going to be some remnants of mech, and the mech deck's not going to be viable unless they add a bunch more again.
yeah, it's gonna be weird to see Clockwork Knight exist in a
It's like
format with like 2 or 3 mechs.
yeah, it's like a complete
That's-
waste of a card.
that's
I mean,
right.
it's when the text has complete all to do with mechs, it's a total unplayable card.
I mean, it's kind of the risk of like having tribal themed sets though, is they don't function very well outside of their own set. It was the same thing was kind of true in Magic as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess if they do like a tribal themed set, it is going to kind of die off when it rotates out. But in Wild, they only get better and better. So it's kind of
I
interesting.
guess it's the flip side, right?
Yeah.
Like you do get to improve one side, and I think that's what's
Yeah.
nice, right? They get to make new cards that are going to be applicable for Wild. I just wish there was like that little bit of space where you can play it in Standard. Maybe at the end of the year, when they're done with the entire, that year's rotation, maybe then we'll have like enough cards to not necessarily make an entire deck like a mech mage with everything, but enough little bits and pieces that you'll want to play them together, even though they're not necessarily going to make the entire archetype.
Yeah.
That's possible.
I mean, it's just another selling point for Wild, guys. You know what I mean? Like Wild is just
Well
something-
played.
It's definitely got some potential for some interesting just an interesting environment with all of the tribal cards together, and just imagine the craziness, right? Or even just I don't know, you can create all kinds of cool thematical events and things around Wild. So don't dust all your cards yet. Like, I would heavily advise not doing that if you can help it. I mean, obviously, if you don't have a ton of budget to just obviously continue to buy cards and stuff like that, then of course. But I wouldn't just do it just for the sake of only playing Standard and thinking Wild's gone. Okay, well, I think that's gonna be it for questions today. We'll wrap up the show. Actually, one quick thing, Patreon. We have a Patreon. I always forget to plug it. Patreon.com/ValueTown. Check that out, guys. Support the show, help it continue on, and hopefully participate in some of the rewards and milestones. I've been having a hard time getting people to actually like participate in some of these things. So just check them out, and hopefully you guys can maybe even give me some feedback. Give some feedback on what you'd like to see from the Patreon. Yeah. But next week, guys, just a heads up before we actually, just shout outs and good stuff. We won't have a show next week because all three of us will be, doing something. I'm not even sure how. Doing something related to Hearthstone, so we won't be in a position to do the show. So we'll continue. We'll be back like 2 weeks from now, hopefully with a guest. We didn't have a guest this week, but we'll definitely have a guest next week, or the next time we have a show in 2 weeks. But yeah. It'll be great to see you guys in a week. I'll get to see these guys, and we gotta do a live Value Town one of these days. Like,
Yeah, we could totally do it. Like, we just
I don't know,
force Trump onto as the mayor, and then you're good to go. That's all we gotta do.
A throwback. Yeah, one of these times we'll have to do a throwback. Maybe some
Yeah, we
milestone.
can do one here maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, one of these times. Yeah,
Sure,
for
why
sure.
not?
But yeah, you want to do some shout outs before we wrap up? Noxious, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. As usual, shout out to Complexity for, I guess, being my team at this point. And as usual, this personal sponsor is Starlent and Hearth Amino. It's an app that actually got back as a sponsor this month. And they're running a giveaway on the app, so you can check them out. It's on my channel. There's a link down there if you want to check it out. It's like 150 card packs. Pretty cool.
Ray?
Shout out to the teams, I guess. All Temper Storm, all that. I don't have too much. You can cheer on the CSGO team at Katowice this week. And yeah, no, I don't really have anything planned. Shout out to our sponsors, of course. D2A Twitch, Fnatic Gear. And yeah.
Awesome.
All
And I'll wrap things up by thanking you guys for doing this show today, all the viewers for sending in their questions, and big shout out to Tempo Storm too for sponsoring Value Town. But that's going to be it, guys, for Value Town, and for Noxious, Reynad, and myself, ChanManV. We'll see you next time. Peace.
See ya.